Kathleen, the Reverend Dr. Green, thank you so much for joining me. I am always happy to talk to you.
Thank you. It's really good to be talked to.
Thank you. And you will see, this is your book that I'm so excited to share with the world. And there's my handwriting. I do a different color every day. It's so accessible. It's so simple. We're going to talk about it. And so we're going live now on all of our channels. As I said in my Mindful Monday post, 'tis the season to be grateful. So I think the book is really timely. And in just a moment, I'm going to ask you some questions about the text and get us started. But introduce yourself. I know who you are, but not all of my community knows who you are. So where are you in the world and what are you doing?
Well, I'm in Connecticut, so it's dark outside right now for me. But I've actually come back to Connecticut. I was in New York for a year and came back. And I'm doing a myriad of things in addition to teaching in the Peace and Social Justice program for CLU.
That's right.
It's been wonderful the past several years. I've taught different courses and still keep in touch with some students, and wonderful to see their journeys. I was most recently executive director of the Yale Humanist Community, and I'm still doing some work with various congregations because I am an ordained minister. So I do some speaking and workshops, and writing has become more and more important in my life. And so hence this particular piece, journaling, has become something also very important to me with some various events that have transpired in my life. And so I have my finger in a lot of different delicious pies, and I am just, I keep on moving forward and have grown children and a grandchild and aging parents. So all of life keeps me very busy, but I have a lot to be grateful for.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And yes, you are one of our best, most beloved faculty. You really have been the heart of that Peace and Social Justice program. Taught mindfulness for us, and we're thrilled to be connected to you. So journaling, is this something that you always have done, like as a young girl, as a young woman, or have you returned to it? Are there seasons for it?
Right. I have returned to it, and I hadn't thought about actually as a young girl until you said that, which of course was the typical diary, with the little key in the lock.
Yes, I do know.
Which I took seriously for about, a hot minute, and then that was about it. But as an adult, I've journaled off and on in various ways. But most recently, I started doing gratitude journaling, which is its very own and a specific type of journaling. It's much more disciplined. And so that has really become a very important part of my mindfulness practice, gratitude journaling. So I have picked it up again, but it also has kind of evolved. And right now I'm settled into this particular type of journaling.
Okay, so I want to get some working definitions out for all of us to think about. So when just get mindfulness. You're a mindfulness teacher and practitioner. What do we mean when we say mindfulness? Am I sitting on a mountain by myself? I'm a working mom. I can't do that. What do we mean mindfulness?
Right. So the way that I typically describe it, and I think is described specifically in the journal, is just a simple place of being present. So if you're mindful, you're aware, but it's not an awareness of everything going on. It's an awareness of this present moment. Because as my writing partner likes to say, really the present is all we really have. The past is done. We have memories, but the past is done. The future hasn't happened. All we really have day to day is the present moment that we're in. So mindfulness is about being in that moment and accepting it for what it is. We often forget about that second part.
Yes.
It's just, okay, I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
But accepting it as it is. So that's the toughest part for me in mindfulness. And that's why it takes a practice doing over and over and over again, to really become mindful and to settle into that kind of groove of being in the present moment.
Yes, it's so hard. You can see from my body language, right, and my nonverbal that it's really hard. And I think right now we're in the US, we're in an election transition. We're going into holidays. We're going into the new year. School is up in the air. My mind and I practice mindfulness every day. I do. I'm practicing. But my mind races ahead, right?
Yes.
I'm always in that. And I think our culture has us race ahead.
Yeah.
And I forgot, as you were saying it, the acceptance. And can you say more about that? Because I feel like that's a part that we don't examine a lot.
We don't. But the acceptance, the more that you can practice mindfulness and also sometimes I just describe it as a stillness. It doesn't mean you have to meditate in a traditional way. It's much more accessible than that. Okay. But it is about being still, because if you're still, you can be present. So accepting it means, that this is what's before me. I can't control that. I can't change that. It is what it is. And so I accept it. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be angry about certain things, that I'm not going to be grieving over certain things. I'm not going to celebrate. All of those things are very real and part of what makes us fully human.
Yes.
But accept that this is the present moment and we are aware of it.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So mindfulness. Now, resilience. And this is something I'm really excited about. My doctoral research is in this, and I'm a child for whom grief and trauma and resilience is a big topic. And I would love for our communities, we have healthcare leaders, we have educational people, we have civic engagement people. Well, how do you define resilience? And how does that connect to mindfulness?
Okay. There's going to be this little pattern that's going to go on here. So, the easiest way to define resilience is it's how we bounce back.
Right. Okay.
Resilience is how we bounce back when we are faced with stressors, whatever they may be. We're not born as just being completely resilient with this excess reserve of resilience. We have to build our resilience.
Oh, okay.
Then our resilience in order to bounce back better every time that we are hit with stressors. So it's also something that's a practice that we are constantly wanting to nourish and nurture and build and strengthen. It connects, and it's very much about science, neuroscience, and the brain, and what is activated, the various centers of the brain, but it connects with mindfulness. I have found, first of all, that there are many tools to building resilience, and gratitude is one of those tools. It's one of the strongest tools for building resilience. So I've connected, what I did in the journal is I connect mindfulness with gratitude, because I think I'm looking for a mindful gratitude.
Yes.
So gratitude that is very much about this present moment and about being grateful for this present moment. And so in doing that, I am building and strengthening my resilience. And I'm actually amazed at how simple it is, and yet how it really works. I had a conversation today with my parents, and I've had a couple of financial issues that came up. And my mother said, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was going on. And I can't believe that, you have to deal with this and with all this other stuff." And I said, "But it's fine. I have so much good in my life and so much that I have to be grateful for. This is just a little blip in the road." And my mother just stopped for a second and she said, "It sounds like you're really okay. Like this isn't bogging you down. This isn't." I said, "No, actually it's not." And I hadn't even thought about that.
I just got goosebumps. It's not bogging you down. I picture us like almost disfigured with stress.
Right.
and becoming lightened so that we can move in the world.
Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm so struck that you said resilience is a skill that we practice and build, because I often hear people say they'll categorize people or children or youth, that kid's resilient, that family's resilient, that woman's resilient, as if it's a trait that some of us have and some of us don't. But you're saying we can all start.
Right.
And we can all develop certain skills and capacities that build that in us so that we're not so vulnerable to being crushed.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I think I might, go out on a limb and say, I think we're wired for resilience. We have the capacity, but it's not something that for every person is just going to come naturally. Or like I said, we're not born with this reserve of resilience. So we need to find ways to build that resilience. And it's something that we work on. So if we are aware of it, then it becomes this practice, and we find the tools. And for me, and I've had deep, deep grief over the past couple of years. And I've also had various physical pain. And so this is all just in a period of 5 years. So I've really worked on my resilience, and gratitude has been the tool for me that has been so accessible. And I am, like I said, I'm just amazed at how well it works. It doesn't mean that life is perfect. It doesn't mean that terrible things don't happen, but I'm able to bounce back better than I would were I not working on resilience through my gratitude. So it really helps you see the positive things in life if you're using gratitude as the tool.
Yes.
And those negative ruminations that you
ruminations, yes.
When you're practicing gratitude, then what it does, it fights those with optimistic ruminations. And it just becomes this pattern that actually feels very natural.
Yes.
Once you get into that. It helps you stay grounded and really accept the present for what it is.
Yeah.
And for me, what was important is that gratitude builds resilience by helping you identify and focus only on solutions. You're not identifying and focusing on the problems. You're focusing and identifying the solutions. And that's a very forward way, very positive way of approaching life, in general. It's also good for building those relationships with really care about you. So gratitude to me is just one of the most powerful tools. And I also consider it, being grateful is an emotion to me. So it's also one of the powerful emotions. So, when you couple that with the resilience, it puts you in a good spot, especially in the times that we find ourselves in now, where most of us are feeling like it's just chaos everywhere. And we're trying to feel safe, mentally as well as physically. Resilience is extremely important right now.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to get to the book in just a moment. For those of you just joining us, I'm Dr. Stephanie Varnon-Hughes from Claremont-Lincoln University. I'm here with my colleague, teaching faculty, and chaplain and minister and interfaith leader, the Reverend Dr. Kathleen Green. We're talking about her new resilience journal, 100 Days of Mindful Gratitude. And you were just defining resilience. And I was going to ask you, you said that this is a future-oriented practice. Focusing on solutions orients us towards the future in a positive way. And it occurred to me, that's very countercultural. If we look at just the evening news or the daily news or the doom scrolling that we do on our news devices, news is presented as a problem. This is a conflict. This is a problem. This is an issue. This is something wrong. We rarely get to hear, unless we are in education, unless we are getting a degree, unless we're getting fed at our synagogues or our ethical places. We're not always exposed to leaders helping us think about what is the solution, helping train our minds to go in that direction. So what you're suggesting is really countercultural.
That is true. That is true. But I want to make sure that I say, while it is forward oriented, again, we don't want to lose the mindfulness piece.
That's right.
That says, but yet we're in the present, although we are, but we will look at solutions as opposed to looking at problems.
That's right.
So sometimes there's a little, it's a fine line to where we don't want to be forecasting too far ahead and get so caught up in the future. We look at it, but we still want to be grounded in the present.
Right. You're such a good teacher. You heard me in my question, racing ahead, which is exactly what I do when I'm practicing mindfulness. Martha's here. Rachel's here. It's so good to see you all. These are some of my favorite people showing up. Yes. So let's look at the books. I say books. It's one book, but I have a stack here. This is what it looks like. It's super affordable, which I really appreciate. Good. And it's super straightforward. So I'll get to the accessibility in just a moment. So how did you've been gratitude journaling, which is separate from other kinds of journaling. Talk about how gratitude journaling is separate, and then how in your life as a leader and a writer you moved into this project.
Well, I've done many other types of journaling, whether it's just, the notebook and it's just a free form, just to journal, or if it was something a little looser, writing down just good things that happen, or almost like a prayer journal with concerns. So I've done all of those kinds of things also, as well as just journaling that included like doodling.
Yes.
Doodling with music, journaling that included other kinds of not painting, but drawing or sketching, along with text, journaling that had to do with poetry, so many different types. But I found when I knew that really establishing a gratitude practice that was going to be more disciplined, and not unlike a meditation practice for me.
Right.
I needed a journaling tool that would be specific to gratitude and that really laid everything out for me. So it wasn't a blank piece of paper. I needed structure.
A template.
I needed the organization, the structure. And so that was why I took a few that I had used before and kind of morphed into this particular gratitude journal that I think has a kind of a mindful feel to it.
Yes, it does. Hey, Chris, it's so good to see you. So yes, like you, I have done prayer journals. I have done morning pages. Remember back in the day, there was morning pages,
oh my goodness,
right? All kinds of different journaling. So this is what it looks like. I'll show folks at home. It's under $9. If you know me in real life and you want one for the end of the year holidays, let me know. So this is what it looks like. There's a prompt. There's a quote. I'm working really hard on being patient with myself. And then today was remarkable. And I liked that today was remarkable because it was not today is a good day or something I did well today. It was, what is the thing about today that I want to name? Really?
Right.
And you have my personal mantra. So can I ask you, like, as a student, does my personal mantra stay the same? Does it change? How is that connected to gratitude and what I'm appreciating?
Right. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but if I were guiding someone, I would suggest that every so often, meaning if you have a good disciplined practice where you are daily doing this gratitude journal, that every month or two, you look very closely at that mantra and to see where you're at, because the mantra is the way you wish to see your life, you wish it to be. Because I am not always feeling loving and resilient and patient. But my mantra, actually, I just had changed my mantra to say, I am resilient and loving and have the skills to handle whatever comes my way.
Oh my.
Now,
That's a good one.
I always feel that, but because that is how I wish it to be, that is my desire. That's what I want to see manifest. So, but I need to take a look at that. It becomes stale.
Right.
3 months later, it's the same. And maybe there's something else that's come up in my life. And maybe now there's something else I really need to focus on.
Yes.
So I will change that because I just changed that one last week.
Yes.
So it's not that there's a wrong way, but I think because you may look at it and feel like, no, that really still is something that I need to write every day. And some people will say, oh, why do I have to write the same thing?
Yes. Why?
Because there is that connection between the brain. It's that kinesthetic, the actual writing of that mantra. You're writing it and you're reading it as you're writing it. I've also had someone suggest that you read it out loud.
Oh,
because this person
learn a language, right?
This person learning a teacher and had said how important that was. I haven't gotten to that myself, but that act of writing that out reinforces, and actually it imprints it in your brain.
Yes.
So this is all connected to neuroscience, and it imprints every time you are writing it. It's imprinted.
Yes.
So it becomes a part there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'll show. So this is another question. I'm an overachiever, right? And if you told me you wanted me to, if you assigned me to do gratitude practice, I might feel compelled to have quotes and citations and footnotes and write really beautifully and fancifully. But the fact that it's really straightforward, it kind of binds that in for me a little bit. It really focuses me. It's just a question. There's just one line. I don't have to show off and be superstar Stephanie. I really just have to take a moment and answer the question and do it every day. This is not a place for me to feel achievement anxiety.
Right. That's a very good point that I actually had not thought of. I know for me it helps because it's the structure, and I don't have to, I don't have to go off and try to figure out something else or how to make it better. It is so straightforward. But I hadn't thought about that for overachievers, that this can help kind of rein things in a little and really bring the focus, really sharpen it. And maybe that is also helping to be more present and mindful in the moment, rather than, thinking of, well, now what else can I do to make this look pretty, or what else can I do to,
that's right.
Just right on that question.
Yeah. For those of us, I know when I'm teaching mindfulness, a lot of our students are, they have children at home, they have aging parents, they're working in healthcare, they're working with underserved populations. I never want mindfulness or gratitude or any wellness practice to be another to-do item, another burden. How do we have an invitation without it becoming a burden or an ask or a requirement? And that's for yourself too. How do you, when you're busy and you're feeling pulled, I know you mentioned you're part of the sandwich generation, right? How do you talk to yourself to make that space more accessible?
The only thing I can tell you, and it sounds like such a cliche, but I have found it to be a truth for me. The only thing I can say is that once I became disciplined enough that this truly was an everyday practice, I began to notice positive, wonderful things happening. And so, bless you.
Thank you.
And so I was feeling and seeing rewards from doing this. And what happens when you see and feel and get rewards? You want to keep doing it. So it doesn't mean that there's not an occasional day.
Yeah, I've already missed 2 days.
Right, when I have something that comes up, but then I get back.
Yes.
I actually miss it, and then I get back to it. And it really is something that I have found very nourishing for me. And so because it has already produced results, positive results for me, I'm not having to do too much to get myself, but it took a while. I mean, I would say it took maybe even close to a year
Oh, good. I'm so glad you shared that because you're the expert, right? So well, sometimes we
Yeah.
look at you and think, oh, it must come naturally to her.
I
Good.
would
Okay.
close to a year to where it's now. I rarely miss a day now, and when I do, I can't wait to get back to it. It's become such a part of who I am and how I operate in the world that this is how I start my day every day.
Yeah.
Wherever I am, I do take it with me. When I'm on a trip or I'm somewhere, I take that with me. I don't always do it at the same time,
Yes.
but I make sure that I do it. But it took a long time to get to this point. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Um, Thinking about gratitude, how do we not take this lightly? How does this not become patronizing or pat to say to someone,
Mhm.
embrace gratitude practice? When people are really truly losing their homes, losing their health insurance, losing access to education, how do we keep this in the realm of meaningful and robust?
Yeah. I think for each person, I think for me, part of this and putting this out there was realizing that for each and every person, this is going to look different.
Yes.
We all have our own life with our own set of circumstances. And what I may be grateful for is something completely different than even my next door neighbor may be
Yeah.
grateful for.
Yes.
Um, but I do know a couple of times I have done some volunteer ESL teaching.
Yes.
So teaching immigrant students English. And I did this when I was in New York. And the fascinating, beautiful people. And we spent some time talking about gratitude because it happened to be near November.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed at the stories that came out, of where people had come from and what they had endured, and yet how grateful they were for things. So for me, I told them, but they had no idea what a tremendous gift it was for me to hear those stories, because it gave me a new perspective on
Yeah.
my own life. Um, so all I can say is just being really listening to each other and
Yes.
listening to those that we work with, and realizing that our journeys they're not the same. They are different. And appreciating and respecting each other and just encouraging. I think by sharing the stories, we did that. I shared my stories about my gratitude. And then, so I think that sharing, um, it opens something up for us. We come from very
Yes.
different places, different experiences, but yet it brought us together in a very interesting and very real way. The connection
Yes.
was very. I feel like we connected over this idea of gratitude.
Yes.
I think finding ways to do that, it makes it very important because it's a connector.
Yes. I'm reminded that when we're doing compassion practice, there's
Mm,
self-compassion and other compassion. And when I
yeah.
began, self-compassion was really hard. I was much better at other compassion. But growing that one capacity got me to a place where I could be more self-compassionate. So listening to others, I think,
Mhm.
helps us listen to ourselves. Asking ourselves how to be mindful and grateful and resilient also opens our ears to finding that from neighbors and partners and other people with whom we're in relationship.
Right, right. Yes.
One of our amazing alums, Cher, says, I look at gratitude journaling not as an obligation. Thank you. I'm going to write this down. But as an opportunity to reframe my feelings through a more thoughtful, optimistic lens.
That's beautiful.
And I appreciate that. Honestly, sometimes my gratitude practice, what I'm grateful for, is
Mhm.
like my child didn't throw up last night. I don't have to wash the sheets. Right?
Sure,
And
sure.
sometimes when he has thrown up Flamin' Hot Cheetos, and that's the worst throw up, I am grateful that I have laundry here in the house. Because in New York City, I
Yeah,
didn't have laundry in the house.
yeah.
And I'm just being real. Like sometimes my gratitude is that we have health insurance. Thank God I have health insurance. And sometimes it's that I just don't have to remake the bed. And so there's a whole spectrum of, and so Cher, I really appreciate you saying the reframing, right? Because if I ask myself for what am I grateful today, it might just be I don't have to wash the sheets.
That's right.
But then another day, it's, my gosh, thank goodness I have a washer and dryer in my house.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I think that, and that is important. And I love that. And it's not being an obligation. I love that. And it's also, there's not a wrong. There's not, I had someone that I was speaking to about the gratitude journal, and she said, well, I tried that a while ago, and I guess I wasn't doing it right, because one morning I have my cup of tea in the morning, and I just looked at that cup of tea, and it looked so perfect. Everything about it just was so beautiful. And I said I was grateful for it. And then this friend of mine said, you can't be grateful for that. That's not something to be grateful for.
Oh, no.
Count.
So that person? What does that person need?
No, I said, I think you need to check your friend list here, because that's not someone you need to have close. The point being that it is the little, sometimes the very, what seems to be the small things. Our being mindful, our being present means we can notice and become aware of these things that otherwise are just, we don't think about the washer and dryer.
Right.
We don't think about to be able to sit and have a cup of tea. We don't think about those things until we just focus and we are still and we are present. And it allows us to see things in a very different way with a heart of gratitude.
Yes.
So whatever you are grateful for, and like you said, each day is different. I have some days when I'm like, what in the world am I grateful for today? And I have to still my mind and breathe. And I realize I have so much. And then things come to me that are so simple and seemingly so small. But on that day, that's what I need to be grateful for. That small thing. I am so fortunate to experience that or have that or know that. So there's no wrong when it comes to being grateful in that way and writing that. And the other point, Stephanie, is we talked about the to-do list.
Yes.
There's a piece in the journal that asks you, what am I going to do to make this a good day? That is not a to-do list. That is, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and then I'm gonna do that. And then it's not a to-do list. It's how are you gonna be mindful about today? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna be mindful in order to make this the best day that you can make it for yourself?
And can we just give people, what are some quick tips? Like I'll tell you two of mine that I wrote, because we don't want this to be too daunting.
No.
We're burdened. So the one that I wrote was be kind and patient with myself. Right. I have an interior voice that just runs me ragged.
Right.
And I drew a heart to myself, because that's one thing I can do. It's just my interior voice. I have all the same tasks in front of me, but it's the way that I'm talking to myself. And then another one, I just said, breathe. Breathe. I keep forgetting to breathe. But if I write it down, at least in that moment, I took a breath.
Well, imprint, right?
Yes.
We write it and we imprint, right? So that's important. Sometimes I often find if I haven't spoken to my children or my parents, I know that is one way in which I can make this a good day is to reach out to my family. Or I've also done it where I've been, especially with the way things are now, I've been remiss in reaching out to friends.
Yeah.
So sometimes, how will I make this a good day? I will reach out to 2 friends I haven't spoken to.
Oh, good.
I'll find even things like that, because the reminding, it's very helpful, but it's not a to-do list.
Okay. So if tomorrow I turn the page, I'm like, oh, I forgot to do that.
No.
Right.
No.
Right. It's a practice. It's a practice. We're practitioners.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good. Okay. I want to and I have more questions. I could ask questions all day long, especially on this topic. I want to tell you that we have 3 copies to give away. And if you would like one, share something about mindfulness on your own social media and tag CLU. And that's it. And then I'll send it to you. Kathleen has signed each one. I'll put a little thank you note with it if I know you, and if I don't know you, I'll send you a little note introducing myself, and I'll get it into the mail to you ASAP. So just wherever you are on social, take a moment and share something mindful and tag us. Juan is here. Be gentle with yourself, even though we haven't. She says, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, even though we don't finish all the listed items.
Yes, yes. It's not about that. It's really just about being present for yourself and recognizing the capacity you have and what is it you can do. And some days you may not feel like there's much you can do to make this a good day.
Okay.
But perhaps, like you said, but I can breathe. I can remember.
Right. I mean, right now, right in the world right now in 2020, that's right. I could be grateful for that 100 days in a row.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Good.
For some reason, I know I can make this a good day if I will make sure that I get outside. I make sure I just step outside and I get fresh air. Sometimes it's just the simplest of things, but that we often forget to do, and we have to remind ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So Nida's saying that it's helpful to remind us that we hear it, we write it down, and it imprints. It does become, Dr. Green was talking earlier about the neuroscience connected to mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And, what we appreciates. When we spend our time in these cycles of negative rumination, those are our synapses. We're building brain in those cycles. And we also have the invitation and the capacity to build brain in different kinds of cycles, including optimistic cycles, future-oriented cycles, grateful cycles, restful cycles. So it's an opportunity each day. Which kind of energy, I'm doing this, I'm picturing my literal synapses like running down the tracks, right? Which kind of energy do I want to try to shepherd myself gently into?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. If y'all have any questions out there on all the streaming, let us know. Dr. Green's an amazing resource. Remind us again, we were talking about mindfulness at the very beginning, mm-hmm. and that it's being present, mm-hmm. not ruminating over the past, mm-hmm. not racing ahead, and it's accepting that moment.
Right.
And as a mindfulness teacher, how do we, as social justice agents, how am I accepting in this moment of my mindfulness practice, but also committed to positive social change?
Right. Well, your mindfulness, it's not about, it's you, it's your mindfulness. It's you and your being present right now.
Right.
I think that idea with the mindfulness and building resilience,
yes,
so that we then can focus on solutions. I think that's where, but we first have to be, or maybe have to be is not the right word, but yes. we will accomplish more, and we will be able to have a bigger impact if we are first mindful and present with ourselves, and accepting the moment as it is.
That's right. It's all, I find myself holding my breath throughout the day.
Sure.
And hearing you say that, I'm reminded, if I'm not actually breathing, how am I parenting? How am I teaching? How am I leading? How am I attending to my civic engagements? Right. So I'm not adding something else to my plate so that I can do more.
Right. I'm
taking a moment so that I am equipped to do the things that I want to do and need to do.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's a tool, to help you. And your toolbox, you may have all kinds of tools. And so you find the one that works the best for you at this moment in time, and that may change. So for me, finding this tool and having it be so just tremendously impactful, positively impactful for me and for my situation and what I have been through in the last several years, I had to share, because I know there's at least someone else that also would find this tool to be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
So really, that was the impetus for getting this out there.
Yes, thank you. And I can tell you that at the beginning of the journal, Dr. Green actually has these definitions, how to use it, why 100 days, why 100 days?
Well, it was kind of funny because I was showing someone my daughter who's a millennial, and I was showing her the thing about the 100. That's the term for absolutely. It's 100 that it's a good thing, but 100 is a lot of different meanings, and even in various religions and various things, it's been almost like a sacred number. It's been a really important number, and if I'm being completely transparent, everybody else had it was 365 days.
Oh, no, that feels so daunting. I don't know if I want to do it for a whole year.
It wound up being like 90 days or something. I'm like, I like 100, and I like
100.
I like all the different connections to 100.
Yes.
And then there's the whole idea of how long does it take to really create a habit. And that's a lot different than something that's a practice. It's longer to develop a practice.
Yes.
So 100 days is kind of a good gauge, if you feel like you're into it. It may not be.
And there's an emoji for it. So when I talk to you about the book, and tonight is saying, yes, our tools change or can change. Absolutely. Yes. Sometimes if I'm at a time of grief in my life, I'm leaning heavily on one kind of mindfulness practice or resource. Sometimes if I'm in a liminal space, if I'm changing jobs or changing schools or changing cities, I might have other tools or capacities that's helping me. And so I think the commonality is attending to yourself.
That's right.
Not making yourself be the last thing that you consider.
Yes. Good. Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Well, we've come to the end of our time together. You can follow either one of us. If you Google us, you can find us. I'm at Claremont Lincoln University. She's at Claremont Lincoln, and she's also at other institutions. You can see us on social. Go ahead and share something mindful on your own social and tag CLU, and I will try to get one of these books out in the post to you. Kathleen, is there anything I didn't ask you that when you got into this project, you really wanted to be sure to share? Hey, Rhonda. Minding your mind. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of anything. I think it was just, for me, it was finding this, to me, it was just this beautiful cycle or pattern of building resilience through the tool of gratitude. And there are lots of ways to express gratitude, but then the way that I have chosen to express gratitude is through the journal. So it's this beautiful circle here. It's the journal of gratitude that leads to building the resilience.
That's right. That's right.
Acted in there all through that. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, so I have copies of the book. There's going to be a raffle, and to be entered in the raffle to win a copy of the book, and maybe everyone will get a copy of the book. We don't know how many are here. Share something about mindfulness on your own social media and tag CLU. So maybe tonight or when you wake up in the morning, you think, wow, looking for opportunities to be mindful and grateful today. And tag CLU so that we can connect with you that way. So anything, mindfulness can be many, many, many things. You may have your own ideas and practices. So share that on one of your socials and tag us. And then we'll take those names and have a celebration and find ways to get these books into your hands so that you can continue your practice and continue participating in this invitation that Dr. Green has given us this evening. It's really good to see all your names and comments, and it's good to see your face and hear your voice. And take good care, everyone. Breathe and take good care. And I'll see you out there in the world. Bye, Kathleen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.